global marketing leaders are the globally connected consumers. You know, cultural differences are as great or greater than they ever have been. The problem now that we face is that this global connectedness is causing companies to look at the global arena and say, I think I've got a solution for all these people out there. The connectedness that we see now is not going to break down extraordinary cultural differences. That's a huge challenge for marketers. The third one is localization, along the same lines. Localization revisited. You need to localize your marketing, localize your products, localize your thinking. Because consumers demand it now. As I said, this is the era of experiential, personal engagement, and consumers want it to be localized. Now, when you come from a country like the United States, which is so multicultural and so multi-ethnic, then it becomes a little bit easier. But if you're a Japanese company, it becomes much more of a challenge. Or a Middle Eastern company. I work in the Middle East often. Well, you know, to look at things from the perspective of the buyer becomes difficult. This localization. Theodore Levitt from Harvard, who's passed away, but was one of the great minds in terms of global marketing, said that the globalization is the key. Consumers all want the same thing in the world. They want to expand their discretionary income, they want to alleviate life's burdens, and they want to be able to enjoy the fruits of their labor. Well, consumers are not all like that. Consumers are very different. So in terms of localization, yes, all the global elements of technology, but make sure you localize your product for consumers. Also, in terms of multi-channel misses, there are just so many touch points now. Interestingly, in the United States in 1968, the year I graduated from high school, a company could get an 85% penetration rate. In other words, they could communicate with 85% of all the people in the country with 3 advertisements on television. One time, 3 advertisements. ABC, NBC, and CBS. The 3 television networks on Sunday night at 8 o'clock. You get 85% of the people to see your message. How do you get 85% now? It'd be impossible. There are so many touch points. But when it comes to multi-channel misses, you're going to miss some. You can't cover every base. That's why you have to kind of hedge your bet as best you can. Look for those channels that are peculiar to your target market. Don't try and do shotgun marketing. It doesn't work. And by shotgun marketing, I mean, my product is good for everyone. Just throw it out there and see who comes after us. Look at it from the perspective of, now all these channels, I'm going for this one. I'm going to double down on this. I'm going to use Facebook. I can link to all the others, but that's going to be my channel. And then also, organizational structures. They're going to have to change. Companies are going to have to change their organizational structure to satisfy the needs of this marketplace. These traditional siloed president, executive vice president, and all the corporate vice presidents, it's not going to work. And again, I'm not just saying this to you because it's fun and it's neat. This is what's actually happening. A tweet from Forbes magazine, July 26, 2014, 4 days ago. Innovation is not here, it's there in the future. So when companies innovate, they have a tendency to look at what exists now and take advantage of it. That's not the way to innovate. That's the way to copy. The way to innovate is you have to look at it from the perspective of what's happening at some point in the future. It might be a gamble, but in terms of technology, we now have the data. We can measure, we can project, we can do the simulations, we can anticipate. In summary, and we'll take some questions in a couple minutes, by the way. I said that McKinsey gave me what I was looking for this past year with their We're All Marketers Now article. If you haven't read that, by the way, you should. It demonstrates that everyone's involved in marketing. The great Nike, I think we mentioned it in September. The great Nike, the sporting goods company and sports apparel shoes, they've been using the same advertising slogan for about 20 years. Just do it. You've all heard it a million times. But that's their external slogan. Their internal slogan that they talk about all the time. Every email, every memo, every internal message, every conversation, it's everyone markets here. Everyone in the company is responsible for marketing. And another summary comment, it's not digital marketing, even though I've said it many times this evening. It's marketing. Marketing is digital marketing. For those companies that have not figured that out yet, they're going to be laggards and they're going to be left in the behind. Also, it's not a fad. It's definitely not a fad. It's here to stay. There's no going back now. The technology that's coming forward now is nothing short of extraordinary. I pay attention to every presentation I can get and hear regarding technology. And what I see is just nothing short of amazing. Everything from extraordinary capability to be connected, to storage capacity, to access to information. And then finally, thinking proactively is the key. We just cannot keep reacting in the marketplace. I get so tired of listening to people telling me about reactive kinds of strategies. Proactively, you have to look for not overt opportunities, you have to look for latent opportunities. And by a latent opportunity, it hasn't manifested itself yet. It hasn't demonstrated itself to everyone. When Microsoft invests $1 billion in a dying industry, everyone says, what the hell are they doing that for? Well, they knew why they were doing that. And then finally, as I often say, always remember that marketing is just far too important to be left to the marketing department. There's no more question about this. Thank you all for your time, your hospitality. We'll take some questions. Thank you all.
Ok, los que quieran hacer preguntas, por favor. ¿Alguna? Ok.
¿Cómo analiza el mercadeo la cuestión ética sobre utilizar los datos para predecir hacia dónde se mueve el cliente?
The ethical approach of using data to know where the customer is going is definitely ethical implication.
It's a really important area, and it's a. Can you translate? Yes. Yep. It's a really important area, and it's a real hot button for marketers. We have access to extraordinary amounts of data, but is it ethical, and is it, in many cases, legal to be able to move in the direction of using data? Privacy is a thing of the past. It is absolutely amazing to me how little privacy people have. Your digital footprint follows you everywhere. Do this experiment. The next time you're using your computer, you're online, which you always are. Go to some places where you would not normally go. I'm not talking about X-rated or pornographic. If you, hunting elk in Alaska, do a search, visit a website. Don't leave your name, don't sign up for anything, just visit it. And then helicopter hunting on the North Slope. Camping on the north part, and camping in Greenland. And then go back to your normal life. Within 24 hours, you'll get email from companies that sell those products. Within 7 days, you'll get regular mail with brochures from companies that sell those products. Well, how do they do that? You didn't leave your name, but you left a digital footprint. You left a digital footprint, and it's extraordinary. And companies are always on that, what should I do? Plato said 3,000 years ago that ethical business is good business. Plato is as right today as he was then. It's just more difficult now. Because now companies have an extraordinary amount of information. An extraordinary amount of information. And the willingness of people to share personal information is just amazing. It's amazing. My son calls me on the phone, he says, hey, listen to this. A Facebook post from one of his Facebook friends. It says, congratulations to my husband, 30 days sober today. I said, gosh, I didn't even know he was a drunk. My son said, I didn't either. Who else knows that now, by the way? His boss? His insurance company? The driver's license bureau? And people are just unbelievable. Human resource, some of you work in human resources for your company. Somebody doesn't come to work on Friday, what's the first thing you do on Monday? Check Facebook. They can't resist. Had a great day at the beach on Friday. So when it comes to using information that we have, there's always that ethical concern that companies have. And believe me, and I see the information they have, it's amazing what companies know about people, about consumers. Any other questions? Be happy to take them.
Thank you. Hi. First of all, I really enjoyed your talk. Thank you.
We're going to teach it here. We don't need it.
Yeah, no problem. I was just wondering, how effective do you feel that advertising on Facebook is? That's pretty much the question. You know, I know that they can use some of that personal data to target the audience,
Sure.
and I'm wondering, and does it depend on the industry that you're in?
Sure. It's a good question for two reasons. Number one, when Facebook had their initial offering, 2 weeks before they had the initial stock offering, General Motors pulled $5 million worth of advertising from Facebook. Now, the only reason General Motors would do that was it didn't work. It wasn't working. So there are good stories and bad stories about advertising on Facebook. But that was 3 years ago. And now we have companies like Ford Motor Company, who we just saw, not just advertising on Facebook, but actually launching a product on Facebook. Companies have discovered Facebook. Facebook has 1 billion people involved. And by the way, when we hear and see that Facebook is not allowed in China and YouTube, don't believe that. It's not true. It's allowed in Beijing. It's going to be allowed very soon in Shanghai, and the country will follow suit. Why? Because the government now wants the people to experience the fun of Facebook? No, it's because industry is forcing it. Industry is forcing China to open up Facebook. For the real estate industry, for travel, for tourism, it's a worldwide phenomenon. Now, should companies advertise there? It depends on the type of advertising they do and the way they're going to communicate with consumers. The algorithm, the mathematical algorithm that Facebook's news feed uses is remarkably sophisticated. For example, if I go to my news feed, I'm going to see some advertisements. You're sitting right next to me. Your news feed is completely different than mine. Because, not just because you're female and I'm male, I'm 63 and you're 27, I'm from the United States, you're from San Jose. Not at all. It's because of our behavior in the marketplace, the kinds of things we've indicated. So the answer is yes and no. Facebook advertising companies certainly should consider advertising on Facebook, but you've seen what's happened with the value of Facebook since that initial disastrous stock offering. It's become fabulously valuable. Any questions? Tell you what I'll do. I will make sure that you have my email address, and should something come up that you're interested in, I'll be happy to answer questions. I get very excited about this stuff. I have a tendency to think about it for long periods of time, but you have my PowerPoint. Feel comfortable using it, should it be of any value to you. And by the way, expose yourself to experts in this field. Not that I'm an expert, I may be, I don't know, but there are a lot of people that have a lot of stuff to say. I'm not talking about, hire Temple Barker and Sloan Consulting Company to come to your company for 6 weeks and do a $300,000 study. I'm talking about listen to what people have to say to give you some direction in this area. Costa Rica has not done well in using digital technology to market this country. It's too good of a secret. There are 65,000 Americans have retired here. There should be 600,000 Americans retire here. Use the technology, use the operations, use the systems, and identify those target markets.
Bueno, para la Universidad Hispanoamericana ha sido un honor tener al profesor Nugent nuevamente y los mantendremos informados de los siguientes eventos que tendremos durante los siguientes meses. Por favor, un aplauso para el profesor Nugent.
Thank you all. I'll be happy to stay around and chat too.